Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Chyu from Decades Drives, and before I start today's review, I would just like to say thank you so much for those who supported me in the first video that I did. I took into account all your feedback from me, and I'll do my best. I'm still a bit nervous since this is my second time being on camera, but come join me and see how I'll see my journey in Decades Drives. Today I'll be reviewing the same DC5 and FD2 that Angus and Chris have done already in the previous video, but I'll be doing it in the English version. So, starting with the similarities of these cars, both of these cars are powered by the same dual overhead cam, naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine. And starting with the DC5, this car was produced from the years 2001 to 2006, which is just around my age, and the FD2 over here was produced in 2007 to 2011, which makes me officially older than any FD2 on the road. And Type R as Type R does, both of these cars are 6-speed manuals. So, starting with the brightest reddest car over here, the DC5, it's the 4th generation Integra Type R, which was codenamed as the DC5, although in the North American market it was called as the Acura RSX, whereas in the North American market, although it was only called the Type S and not the Type R. Continuing on to the bonnet, the DC5 was made as a replacement for the DC2, and the DC5, it ditches the DC2's B18's 4-cylinder engine for the as aforementioned K28 engine, although it makes just 4 less horsepower than the newer FD2R, but that information only applies to a stock DC5. So let's take a closer look at what this bad boy has. So taking a closer look at this DC5, as you can see here, it's using a K-tuned fuel rail, a large Skunk 2 intake manifold, right? And it also uses a BCBR coilovers, and funny green, bright red, or contrast. I guess it allows you to see the engine bay easier. So the DC5 Type R came from the factory with upgraded Brembo brakes, limited slip differential, car seats, and a bunch of other goodies that help it with both handling and speed. And as one could probably tell by now, these aren't the original wheels. These are actually the NK RPF 1 wheels, which I think look pretty nice. So coming into the DC5, we can see here, the DC5 actually has a much more aggressive outlook, and it gives much more of a sports car feel compared to the FD2, I would say. So Type R as Type R does, manual, it's manual gear shift, the Type R badge, and also the Type R on the speedometer itself. And taking a look at the AC controls, I actually think it looks pretty neat, and very befitting of the Type R spirit. Red interiors, and red interior accents over the door panels and all. Maybe I'm just slightly biased because red is my favorite color, but yeah, most of the interior here is stock, just except for the player here, which has been replaced with a big screen. Coming to the back of the DC5, it is a little bit cramped, and if Angus is 175 cm, you can guess how tall I am, which is, this much, and also just a little bit of space between the knees and the driver's seat actually. So compared to an FD2, the DC5 is much smaller, and compared to the DC2 on the first video that I made, it is definitely much cramped, since this car is a 3-door liftback coupe. And a little bit of a throwback to the DC2, the DC5 has cup holders while the DC2 does not. Main difference. Coming to the back of the Integra, you can see the Type R badge over here, as well as the Integra badging, and the iconic red-colored Honda logo over here. I also quite like the styling of these taillights, honestly. Let's take a look at the boot space. So, since the DC5 is a much smaller car than the FD2R, and it's also shorter and not as wide as the DC2, the boot space is slightly smaller. But considering that it's still big enough to fit me, I would say there's plenty of boot space to go around. So now that you heard of the DC5, let's talk about the FD2R. I'd just like to mention how much I love the championship white on the FD2R. I feel like it's one of the most iconic colors out there for an FD2R. I bet you've seen this car a lot of times on the road, whether or not it's a regular Civic or an actual Type R. But how do you tell if it's an actual Type R? So, the most obvious and the best sign you can actually tell is by if it's a manual or not. But if you see this car passing by on the road, I doubt you can actually go in and like really check it out if it's a manual or not. So let me teach you 3 signs that my friend who owns an FD2R taught me about. First of all, one of the obvious ones is actually the hood. The hood itself has these body and panel lines just to left and right, and it's actually quite nice as you can see. But Malaysia, with money, anything's possible. So oftentimes a regular non-Type R could actually buy a Type R hood and just replace it on. Other one that most people forget when they mod their non-Type Rs into a Type R is actually the signals on the hood, signals on the side mirrors itself. A real Type R does not have the signals on the side, whilst the non-Type R has the signal on the side. And one more is actually at the back, and I'll get to that in a bit, but basically the real Type R does not have a keyhole, while the non-Type R has a keyhole at the back. I'll give you a little show about it later. So, the FD2 is a 4-door sedan, as you can see here, and it's supposedly the more family-friendly option. Well, definitely, since it is a 4-door sedan and it has bigger space, but, well, you see, sports car. So, like the DC5 that it replaced, it came with very similar upgrades from a normal Civic. So with the big Brembo brakes, recliner seats, LSD, and also upgraded suspension, it is supposed to be a better handling car than the DC5 since Honda claims the chassis to be 50% more solid. So inside the FD2, I might be saying so too much, but that's okay. Well, compared to the DC5, the interior here is much more low-key and not as aggressive as the DC5, but this car mostly being stock, it still feels quite nice for like a car that's just my age, around my age, actually younger than me. So, as Type R does, you have the shift knob over here, very nice, and also the Type R badge, certified real Type R, and also only a tachometer actually, there's no speedometer. Well, technically the speedometer is on the top and it indicates your speed, but otherwise, this car is pretty nice. Again, befitting of the Type R spirit, black and red accents all over the car. Beautiful, gorgeous. So since the FD2 is a bigger car than the DC5, sorry, well, it has a much bigger boot space, and since it is a 4-seater, the back seats are actually, there's a lot of space to sit in, it's actually quite comfortable. The back of the FD2R, Civic badging, Type R badging, the iconic red Honda logo, and again, as mentioned earlier, much earlier, a normal Civic has a keyhole just about this area, while the real Type R doesn't, as you can see here, no keyhole. Go for the actual driving experience, where you want to feel the VTEC and everything, please go and watch Chris and Angus's Chinese version of this video, since they actually talk about the driving experience. They have experience driving these cars and all. Well, while I do not, I'm just excited to be here, just happy to be here, you know, and not trying to wreck these cars. Oh, forgot to mention, both of these cars are actually for sale right now for 125,000. And if you buy these cars, please come and claim like a free Decades Drives t-shirt from us. Oh my god, please don't tailgate me. And also a free video and photo and video shoot. Exactly, you get free stuff from buying this car. So, get into contact with us today and get a step closer to your Type R dreams.